Chapter 1. We start off as someone says, "So, do you remember meeting me?" That's what I asked him. Now we see a guy and a girl. As the guy keeps a straight face, the girl says, "But he asked me right back." I can't ask the same thing twice, right? We see that the girl is blushing as she says this. The girl looks confused as she calls the guy's name. The guy starts tweaking out and suddenly screams as he points to the girl and says, "That's where you killed yourself. You are the losing heroine." Hearing this shocks the girl. We see that this girl is Manaka Kawashima. She is a losing heroine. As she is hearing this, she is in shock and disbelief. The guy explains to us that he's someone who cheers on this kind of heroine. In other words, he's what you would call a background character. We see him telling us that he noticed something strange while on his way to school. As he's on the cycle, he sees a girl and a boy in a lucky pervert scenario. The girl screams at the guy and asks him, where does he think he's touching, and calls him a perv. The guy tells her that she's the one who bumped into him and defends himself. As these two people argue, we see our MC, Kimura, cycle ahead as he thinks that it's such a cliche to bump into someone at a corner and end up in a lucky perv situation. He continues and says that the abnormality number 2 is that girl then showed up as a transfer student. As the girl is being told where her seat is, we see her tweaking out. She sees that the guy who crashed into her is in the same class. The guy and the girl scream in unison and say, "Why are you in the same class as me?" As they both do this, Kimura looks at them as he's shocked. He thinks that yet another cliché development. He wonders, with stuff like this, doesn't this mean we are going to have a losing heroine? As he thinks this, he suddenly hears someone say, "No way," in a sad voice. We see that it's the losing heroine with tears in her eyes, and all gloomy looking. Seeing her like this makes Kimura realize that this girl is the losing heroine. Kimura explains that this is a strange story, but seemingly this whole world is a rom-com centered around Akun. Even the conveniently empty seat right next to Akun. Even the conveniently placed double heroines. As we see Akun accidentally grope some assets, Kimura explains that even the conveniently timed lucky perv moments for him. Ayame then beats Akun and calls him the worst perv before she goes off. Kimura sees this and thinks that there's no freaking way to explain this world unless it's a rom-com. Everything about it is so old-fashioned, even Ayame's reaction. As Ayame goes away, Kawashima goes to him and asks him if he's all right. Akun looks pissed as he thanks Kawashima and says that Ayame is a violent girl. Kawashima replies and says that he shouldn't say things like that. Ayame just transferred here after all. Kawashima warmly smiles and tells Akun that he should be the one to support Ayame. Kimura hears this and gets shocked as he thinks, she went and put her rival ahead of herself. As Kimura looks at Kawashima send Akun to Ayame, he thinks that she's way too kind. Kimura suddenly screams and says if you do that, he will never notice you. Hearing this shocks Kawashima. She gets all excited and goes close to Kimura and asks, "You're well versed in love, right? Please teach me." And because of this, Kimura made up his mind. By mobilizing every bit of his knowledge of rom-coms, he will make Manaka Kawashima win. Now we see Kawashima and Kimura discussing. He says, "First, let's sort out the relationships. You're childhood friends with him, right?" She stutters and says, "Yes." She smiles and tells him that they were childhood friends, but she moved away when she was 6. They used to be really close. Suddenly she gets gloomy and tells him that it seems like Akun doesn't remember anything at all. As she's crying, Kimura asks her if they made a childhood marriage promise. She looks confused at first. Kimura gets serious and says, I'm asking if you two made a marriage promise." She gets nervous and tells him that was just them fooling around as kids. It did happen, but it's nothing. Suddenly, Kimura screams and tells her that's exactly what she needs to bring up. Right now, her character is too weak to compete with Takabe. Kawashima has no edge. She's got no sharpness. Hearing that she has no sharpness hurts her. He tells her to look at Takabe. She's such a textbook tsundere. She's full of contrast. That sharpness is amazing. Her impact just keeps piling up. Hearing this confuses her. He continues and tells her that she'll fight back with a past episode. She should go tell Akun one more time, lay her past bare. He screams and tells her that whoever puts it all out there wins. Hearing this encourages her as she says that she's got it. At an isolated place in the school, we see Kawashima calling Akun. As he turns around, she tells him that she's the girl from back then. She blushes as she asks, "Do you remember me?" As she says this, the wind blows real hard. Akun looks confused as he asks her what did she say. He couldn't hear because the wind was too loud. Kawashima flusters and gets embarrassed and tells him that it was nothing. Kimura sees this from the back and calls out to her and tells her that the teacher is looking for her. Kimura screams at her and asks her why did she dodge it in such an overused way again. She gets embarrassed as she says no way repeatedly. He gets worried for her and tells her, I get it, Kawashima. The thought of him not remembering is scary. But statistically speaking, before he could finish, she tells him that seeing him up close was so cool that she just blanked out. She says this as she giggles and gets shy. He strictly tells her that firstly, she has to make Akun remember that she's his childhood friend and that she made a marriage promise, and then create a gap between how she was back then and how she is now. She screams and says, use those twin tails to fuel your sun side, but she panics and tells him that if she suddenly acts like that, she'll just seem emotionally unstable. He changes the topic and asks her, doesn't she have any memories with Akun? She thinks about it for a minute and tells him that there used to be a park around here where they always played. As he thinks about the park, he suddenly gets an idea and says, a park full of memories. He screams at her and tells her that this is it. This is perfect. He tells her to send him a letter anonymously. Tell him that she'll be at that park. Hearing this confuses her. She asks him what does he mean by this. Kimura replies and tells her that this town has a ridiculous amount of parks. If she just vaguely says she'll be waiting at that park, people ordinarily wouldn't know which one she's talking about. But if Akun remembers what the park of memories means, he will definitely come. Hearing this brings some hope to her. Kimura continues and says once she meets him there, Akun is bound to remember the past too. And then, right there, she confesses. Hearing the confession part of the plan makes her nervous and shy. Kimura continues and tells her that the Park of Memories, a childhood friend who once made a marriage promise. There's nothing left but a confession. Hearing this scares her, and she tells him to wait. Kimura continues and tells her to hear him out. The longer a heroine race drags on, the harsher it gets. If she's going to settle it, she should do it in a short and decisive battle. Kawashima starts panicking as she tells him that she can't do it. Kimura screams and encourages her that she can do it. Now, after school, we see Kimura and Kawashima going together. She sounds anxious as she stutters and asks him what should she do. What if Akun's not there? She looks worried as she tells him that she's got a feeling that he won't show up. When she met Akun after so long, he didn't remember her, so she couldn't help but feel like it was all just in the past for him. Suddenly, Kimura tells her, that's not it. Most likely, he remembers, but he hasn't connected the Kawashima from the past with the Kawashima you are right now. He continues and tells her that it just means that she has to become that much more charming, and she shouldn't put herself down. She looks unsure as she tells him that he's flattering her too much. With a straight and serious face, Kimura tells her that she will definitely meet the person she is waiting for in a rom-com. Hearing this makes her say, is that so? Now we see them reach the park. She sounds nervous as she says, maybe he really doesn't remember the past. There's no way Akun remembers. She starts doubting more and more, but she suddenly sees Akun standing there in the park and gets surprised. Kimura sees Akun there and thinks that they've won. It's Kawashima's victory. Kimura encourages Kawashima and tells her to go to Akun. As she's going, she suddenly hears Akun say, Ayame. Hearing this shocks her. We see Ayame asking Akun, what does he want? Seeing Ayame there shocks Kimura. He wonders why is Ayame at the park. He wonders if this could be on her way home. Since it's so close to school, it just became her spot. As the MC is thinking this, we see Ayame looking at Akun in confusion. Akun asks Ayame if she was the one who gave him the letter. Hearing this from afar makes Kimura think that, at this rate, Akun will think Ayame was the one who gave him the letter. Akun asks Ayame, how did she even know about this park? She looks confused from this question and tells him that it's just a shortcut on the way home. As those two are talking, Kimura looks worried as he tells Kawashima that she can still make it in time. Kawashima stays silent as she hears Akun ask Ayame, could it be that we played here when we were little? Akun continues and says, so it was you, to Ayame. Kimura once again tells Kawashima that there's still time, she can go right now and still make it. But suddenly Kawashima replies and tells him that for Akun, it's already just something from the past. She clenches her fist in frustration and says, once again, I lost. Hearing this makes Kimura frustrated and sad. He suddenly hops on his bike as he tells Kawashima to wait there. Kimura starts pedaling as fast as he can while he thinks that the school is close to this park. There is still a way. As he reaches the school, he runs to the broadcasting room. He suddenly goes to the station while the girl there asks him, what is he doing here? He apologizes to the girl and tells her that he's borrowing this. He puts the mics on full volume as he thinks that he's the only one who knows. He remembers how Kawashima helps everyone and thinks that he knows how it feels to always be stuck on the losing side. But just for today, he wants Kawashima to win. As he thinks this, he screams into the mic and calls for Ayame. His voice reaches all the way to the park. He asks Ayame to come to the faculty office immediately. Hearing this shocks Ayame. Kimura doesn't stop there. He continues and says, one more thing. There's something I want to say to the one with no confidence, the one who can't move forward. Hearing this confuses Kawashima. The MC screams into the mic and says, your past painted over with who you are now. Hearing this impacts Kawashima and how she thinks a lot. As Kawashima stands there, we see Ayame going towards the school. After Ayame goes to the school, Kawashima goes to Eikun. He looks at her and gets confused. She struggles to speak as she stands in front of him and blushes. Now, in the evening, we see Kawashima waiting for Kimura. He asks her what is she doing here, and didn't she head home with Eikun? She replies and tells him that he went back first. She continues and tells Kimura that he was amazing. Kimura looks troubled as he tells her that he got chewed out pretty badly because of the stunt he did. He asks her what was Eikun's reply to her confession. She suddenly starts to get nervous as she says, I did it. Kimura asks, I did it? You mean like, yay, I did it? She mumbles and tells him that it's not like that. She gets embarrassed and softly tells him that she asked Eikun about homework. Hearing this makes Kimura angry. He screams and says, that's not what you should have asked. In that situation, there's something much more important to hear about than homework, right? She tells him that what he's saying is true, but Eikun said his little sister had a fever, so he wanted to keep it short. Hearing this makes the MC think that he even has a little sister, which is expected of the MC. Kawashima continues and says that just the fact that he remembered her from when they were little was enough to make her happy. Kimura looks troubled as he says, but you waited all this time just to tell me that? What if you and Eikun had just missed each other? She replies and tells him that they would not have Kimura said it himself, that she will definitely meet the person she's waiting for in a rom-com. That's why she chose to believe. Hearing this surprises Kimura. As he sees her, he thinks that Kawashima is the losing heroine. Suddenly, Kimura tells her that Eikun really doesn't know what he is missing. If it were him, he would have chosen Kawashima without a doubt. Hearing this surprises Kawashima. She asks him, what's that supposed to mean? He tells her that he meant it literally, because he likes Kawashima. Hearing that he likes her shocks Kawashima. Kimura continues and tells her, I wouldn't go this far if I didn't, would I? As he tells her this, he thinks that he can't step in between those three. The world has no interest in him. She starts blushing and getting flustered after hearing that Kimura likes her. Kimura thinks that's why this is at least his way of resisting. Kawashima always gets the short end of the stick. He just wanted her to catch a break this time and have something good happen to her. He smiles and thinks that she really is an unlucky girl. Kawashima is still in shock after hearing that Kimura likes her. As they walk home together, Kimura thinks that he wants her to win. Chapter 2. We start off as we see the teacher telling the class that they'll be changing seats next week. Hearing this surprises the class. Kimura is also surprised by this and thinks that this is the perfect chance. If Eikun and Kawashima end up sitting next to each other, they can close their distance naturally. It's a super shortcut to becoming a winning heroine. We see Kawashima also gets happy from hearing that they are changing seats. She thinks that the seat change is usually decided by lottery in situations like this, and she'll need some kind of strategy. As she's thinking this, the teacher continues and says that they'll rearrange the seats based on the results of the next midterm test. As he says this, Kimura and Kawashima get shocked. As they are shocked, we see that Kimura is ranked 18th out of 36, and Kawashima is ranked at dead last. Eikun is ranked first. Kimura thinks that it's a recent trend in rom-coms, the trend being that the MC is unusually smart. As Kimura explains this, we see Eikun being called to solve a problem on the board. Eikun solves the problem and gets praised. As he's getting praised, we see the MC think that this trend applies to Eikun as well. Now he thinks about Kawashima as she stands there at the board, counting on her fingers to solve the math problem and shit bricks. The teacher tells her that she can go back to her seat now. Seeing the teacher tell her to go back makes Kimura think that this kindness hurts. Kimura explains that the double heroines, along with Akun's perfect grades, more and more, he can't help but be convinced this world is a rom-com centered around Akun. As Akun goes back to his seat, we see him and Ayani glaring at each other. They glare at each other and turn away. Seeing this interaction surprises Kimura. He thinks that it's unusually noisy behind him today. He stops worrying about that and thinks that there's more important things like the rearranging of the seats according to the results. Akun's grades are number 1 without a doubt. If Kawashima can get the seat next to Akun, the romantic tension will skyrocket on its own. It'll be a galore of rom-com progress. Kawashima has to get the seat next to Akun. Now we see Kimura walking outside the class as he wonders if there's a quick way to improve Kawashima's grades. As he's walking, he suddenly sees a mountain of books drop in front of him. He sees that it's Kawashima. She looks flustered as she's covered by the books. Kimura picks the books as he asks her if she was helping out the teacher again. He looks at her and gets worried as he thinks, she's such a softie. How should I put it? Suddenly he screams, this intangible cultural heritage heroine. Hearing this surprises Kawashima. He carries the books for her and tells her that they should hurry and take these to the reference room. She looks at him and thinks about how he told her before that he's helping her because he likes her. Thinking about this makes her shy as she thanks him. Suddenly she asks, how should I take your I like you from yesterday? Hearing this confuses Kimura. He looks at the window as he tells her that he likes how she is straightforward with her feelings. Her eyes light up when it's about Akun, and it's fun to see her getting all lovey-dovey. He wants to see a losing heroine like her actually win. If he rephrases yesterday's, I like you, as he says this, she stands there in anticipation to what he's going to say. He tells her that he's her number 1 fan. Hearing this shocks her as she screams, that kind of like? He asks her what does she mean. She gets embarrassed and hides her face as she tells him that she just totally misunderstood on her own. Hearing her say misunderstood confuses him. She gets flustered and tells him that it's nothing. Kimura tells her that as the first step to winning, she should become friends with Akun. Hearing this shocks her as she says, does that mean right now I look more than just friend to him? Kimura hears this and tells her that she has some serious positive thinking. Kimura gets fired up and tells her to listen up. In a classic rom-com, the heroine doesn't suddenly become the girlfriend. In other words, a girl who isn't even a friend is the same as background scenery. Hearing this shocks her as she screams and says, that's just ridiculous. He continues and says, in reality, you're too nervous to even talk to him, right? That's why this seat change is the perfect opportunity. He tells her that she'll naturally grow closer if she sits next to him, and if Akun teaches her, she will get along even better. As she hears this, she says, being taught? Hearing this confuses Kimura. Kawashima looks terrified as she says that it would be scary if Akun got disappointed in her for not knowing something so simple and calls herself pathetic. Kimura tells her that it's not that bad. As Kawashima is crying, she tells him to take a look at problem-solving skills himself. Kimura sighs and agrees to her. Now in the library, we see Kimura screaming at her and asks her, how is she not getting something so simple? As he screams at her, we see her crying loudly. He tells her to look closely and use the formula right here. He looks worried as he asks her, how did she manage to pass the entrance exam? She blankly stares into the ceiling as she tells him that during exam prep, she had her little brother tutor her for 15 hours a day for a whole year. Hearing this shocks Kimura as he asks her, you went that far? She starts blushing as she tells him that Akun has always been good at studying, so she figured he would definitely get into a top school. Hearing this makes Kimura cry as he thinks, congrats on passing, Kawashima. She continues and tells him that she wants to become someone who can proudly walk beside Akun. Hearing this makes Kimura think that Akun's getting more and more deified. Now, we see them get back to studying. Kimura tries helping her more, but the more he tries, the more she gets confused. Kimura struggles to explain the question to her, but suddenly someone answers them from the back. We see that it's Ayame. She comes and tells Kawashima that she should apply the formula like this. Seeing Ayame there surprises Kimura and Kawashima. As Ayame is holding a book, she asks them if they are having a study session. Kawashima asks her if she wants to join too. She smiles and says, 3 breads are better than buns, after all. Ayame corrects her and says that it's heads and not breads. Ayame looks confused as she says that she hates studying. Kawashima smiles and tells her that she hates it too. Ayame replies and says that she can pretty much grasp things from class, and everything's written in the textbook anyway. She doesn't see the point of going out of her way to spend extra time studying. Hearing these things stab Kawashima like daggers. As Kawashima is terrified, she thinks that this is what it means to be a winning heroine. Kimura sees Kawashima losing hope and cheers for her. Kawashima loses hope and withers away. As this happens, Kimura thinks that if things stay like this, the group lineup will be Eikun, Ayame, and other two randoms. As the three are talking to each other, we see someone ask them what are they doing there. We see that it's Eikun. As Eikun gets up and goes near them, he sees Ayame is there, and they both glare at each other. Suddenly they start fighting. Ayame screams and asks him, "How dare you show your face here and talk to me?" He replies and says, "I wasn't talking to you, woman." Seeing them both fight makes Kawashima worry. She tries to tell them to stop fighting. As Kawashima is trying to stop them fight, Ayame tells Eikun that yesterday he barged in on her in the bath and calls him a pervert. Eikun tells her to stop calling him a pervert and tells her that it's not like looking makes anything disappear, and it was mutual anyway. Kimura hears this and looks worried as he thinks it does. Something does disappear. Hearing that they both saw each other naked makes Kawashima go dumb like a Looney Tune character. Kimura sees Kawashima and thinks that half her HP disappeared, at the very least. Kawashima starts to look more dumb as she thinks about those two. Kimura thinks about their situation and wonders what even is this. Those two sound like they live in an 80s rom-com world or something. Suddenly, Ayame gets really upset and tells Eikun that he even broke her headband. Eikun screams and tells her that she's the one at fault for leaving it at a place like that. Hearing this pisses off Ayame more. Kawashima is still baffled by the seeing each other naked part. Kimura points at a no-talking poster and tells them to cut it out already and that they're in a library. Ayame screams even louder and says it was something really important. As Kimura hears her scream, he thinks that they aren't even listening. Ayame gets fed up with this and goes out the library as she slams the door shut. As she goes out, Kimura recalls what happened in the morning and thinks, no wonder they were in such a foul mood this morning. Kawashima goes to Eikun and asks him about the headband Ayame was talking about. Eikun looks guilty as he reaches for his pocket and pulls out a crescent moon-shaped badge, which is broken in two. Kawashima looks at this and says that it's broken clean in half as she looks worried. Eikun calls Kawashima and tells her that he doesn't really understand girls' stuff and all that, and asks her if she'll come shopping with him after class. Hearing that she gets to go shopping with him shocks her and makes her really happy. Kimura sees this and looks fed up as he thinks, here we go again. He thinks that those two will go and buy a new headband together, and then Ayame happens to see them. Just when he thought their misunderstanding couldn't escalate further, Kimura thinks that if things go the way he explained, it will become another event that will deepen Ayame and Eikun's relationship. Kimura runs to stop Kawashima, as he thinks that for Kawashima, it must look like a nice chance to go shopping alone with Eikun. But he can't let that happen. As Kimura is trying to stop her, he suddenly hears her tell Eikun that she thinks the headband must be something irreplaceable for Ayame. Even if he buys her a new one, it won't fill that void. Kawashima smiles and tells him that it's more important to sincerely apologize. Eikun thinks about it and tells her that she's right. Seeing Kawashima say this makes Kimura cry tears of joy as he thinks, that's our Kawashima. She didn't get swayed by what was right in front of her and backed off on her own. That's what's so good about her. Eikun tells Kawashima that he'll apologize to Ayame when he gets home. Suddenly, Kimura thinks of something and stops Eikun as he tells him to hold on. Seeing Kimura do this surprises Eikun. The next day, we see Kawashima call out to Ayame as she's sitting in her seat. Kawashima starts going through her bag as she says that she wanted to thank her for helping her study yesterday. Kawashima pulls out the headband with the moon fixed. Seeing this surprises Ayame. Now we see why Kimura stopped Eikun yesterday when he was about to leave. As Kimura suggests fixing the headband, we see Kawashima ask him if they can really do it. He tells her that it's not about whether they can or can't. What matters is doing it. Hearing this surprises them. Now they look at the internet on how to fix headbands and go get the required items to fix it. We see Eikun carefully attach the pieces together, and all of them smile as it's a success. In the present, we see Ayame holding her headband as she looks really happy. Kawashima tells her that it's a little off, though. As Eikun is about to sit in his seat, Ayame says that this is something she got from her mom. Akun hears this and apologizes to Ayame. Ayame blushes and tells him that he could have just apologized sincerely from the start. Akun looks guilty of what he did, while Ayame looks a little upset. Kawashima tries to mediate the fight between them both. Kimura sees this and thinks that he's glad to see it. If Akun had just gone home like that, he would have carried the guilt. And then he would have looked it up at home, worked hard, and fixed it. That would have only deepened the bond between those two. Kimura thinks that's the one thing he had to prevent. Moreover, fixing it together with everyone is more efficient than doing it alone. As he's thinking this, we see Kawashima tell Ayame that if she wants to thank someone, she should thank Kimura. Hearing this surprises him. Kawashima continues and says that if Kimura hadn't taken the initiative to fix it, things never would have turned out this way. Ayame suddenly turns to Kimura and asks, "Is that so?" Kimura hesitates to answer her. Suddenly, Ayame wears the headband and thanks Kimura with a smile on her face. He just walks away as he tells Ayame to please help Kawashima with her studies. Kawashima would be better off with Ayame than him. Ayame agrees with him and tells Kawashima that if she remembers correctly, the seat changes based on grades. She asks Kawashima what rank she got last time. Kawashima replies and says 36th. Hearing this shocks Ayame as she says, "That's dead last in the class." Ayame smiles and tells her that she'll drill her hard for the following week. Kimura hears this and smiles. Now we see that the midterm class rankings are out. Akun is first as usual, and Kawashima is 36th as usual. Seeing this ranking makes Kawashima and Ayame shocked. Ayame grabs Kawashima and shakes her as she tells her that she taught her properly, so why hasn't her rank changed at all? Kawashima apologizes and tells her that she got so overwhelmed that she couldn't understand anything. Kimura sees this and thinks, "You have got to be kidding me." He looks at the ranking once again and thinks that he thought with Ayame teaching Kawashima, a high rank would not be just a dream. He tries looking for his seat and suddenly notices that Ayame is 18th. Kimura turns to Ayame and tells her that he thought she would rank way higher. Ayame replies and tells him that she would rather be in the same group as her friends if she has the chance to. She starts blushing and tells him that she figured that Kawashima would at least be somewhere around here in the ranking. As she says this, Kimura gets shocked as he realizes that she aimed for the middle of the ranking on purpose. He thinks that's way harder than taking first place. Now the teacher calms everyone and tells them that it's time to decide the seats. He says that the first and 36th place sit together. Hearing this shocks Kawashima. She asks the teacher, "It's not by grade order?" He tells her that it is by grade order. Their school policy is mutual improvement. They say being with someone more capable than yourself helps one grow. And besides, if they just rearranged the seats in order from the top, there would be students deliberately clustering by rank. Hearing this makes Ayame grit her teeth. The MC thinks that the order he thought was completely wrong. The teacher starts making everyone sit according to the arrangement. We see that first sits with 36th and 19th is sitting with 18th. Everyone moves their tables. As they change the seats, Akun tells Kawashima that it looks like they are seat neighbors now. Kimura looks at this and gets excited as he thinks that it's finally here, a shortcut to becoming a winning heroine. Suddenly Ayame says that it's a pain to be near Akun. At least she doesn't have to see his face anymore, so that's a relief. She smiles and looks at Kawashima and says, "Besides, Kawashima's with me as well." Kimura gets worried and thinks, "Yep, as expected, the winning heroine won't be dealt with so easily." She really has the power to seize the spots around the MC. As Kimura is thinking this, Ayame turns to him and says, "You too." Hearing this confuses Kimura. She replies and says, "'Cause I still have not repaid the debt, right?" Kimura tells her that she taught Kawashima how to study though. Ayame replies and tells him that Kawashima ended up in dead last anyway, so it doesn't count as payback. Kimura tells her that it's fine. He suddenly grabs her hand and thanks her. Seeing him grab her hand makes Ayame blush real hard. Kimura sits back in his seat and thinks that it was a happy surprise that Ayame turned out to be a good girl. He's got to make sure to show his gratitude properly. He thinks that the next step is a full-on attack from Kawashima. As he's thinking this, someone calls him. We see that it's Kawashima. She tells him that if he hadn't given her the chance, this seat wouldn't have ended up being this much fun. She smiles and tells him that all of this is thanks to him. He sees her smile and gets pleasantly surprised. He tells her that it's not like he was thinking this far ahead. As they are talking, we see Ayame looking at her hands and blushing as she thinks, "What was that just now?" Chapter 3. We start off as we see Kimura looking at the empty seat next to Akun and think that the seat next to the MC. It's an unshakable classic position for the heroine. He thinks about some rom-com tropes like staying after class to write the journal together, accidentally brushing against each other's hands when changing the water in the vase, getting locked in the reference room as hearts pound. As he thinks this, he suddenly gets a notification. He checks his phone and sees that Kawashima has sent a message on the group asking for help as she and Akun are locked in the reference room. Now we see Akun telling Kawashima that this school has really bad fittings. As her heart beats real fast, she tells him to not worry, as she has already called for help. Suddenly, Kimura slams open the door and screams, "How dare you use the conveniences of civilization?" Seeing this scares Kawashima. Kimura scolds her and tells her that she just went and wasted such a perfect flag as she cries. She gets embarrassed and tells him that she and Akun got nervous in such a cramped space. Kimura screams at her and tells her to make use of that heart-pounding moment. As Kimura is scolding her, Akun notices them. Now after school, we see Kimura getting on his bike as he thinks that even though Kawashima finally got the seat next to Akun, the road ahead still feels very far. Suddenly, it starts raining. He thinks that a sudden rain in the rom-com world means that there's an event going to be triggered. As he thinks this, he rests his bike at a nearby shelter. As he rustles through his bag to find his raincoat, he thinks that for a guy who bikes to school, this rain event has nothing to do with him. As he's about to put on his raincoat, he notices someone behind him. He sees that it's Akun running towards the shelter as he says that he forgot his umbrella. Kimura looks at him and thinks, here comes the cliché. Akun asks Kimura if he's also taking shelter from the rain as well. Kimura replies and says, "Nah, I was just about to put on my raincoat." Kimura suddenly gets an idea and thinks that if Kawashima were to show up right now, it would be a chance for a shared umbrella event. He slowly gets his phone out as he thinks that in this rom-com world, if he wants to make the losing heroine win, then he has to create even the coincidental encounters. He texts Kawashima and tells her that Akun is taking shelter from the rain at Tsumugi Park, and she shouldn't miss this chance. As he texts this, he thinks that the more encounters, the more chances to win. All that's left is to keep Akun here until Kawashima arrives. He thinks that it's game over if someone comes to pick Akun up. Kimura starts talking to Akun and asks him if he doesn't have a smartphone. Akun replies and tells him that he does have one, but he's broke, so he has an old model whose battery drains super fast. He says that it was already dead by noon. Hearing this makes Kimura think, so much for having a smartphone, and that the possibility of him calling someone to pick him up is gone. Akun sighs and says that Ayame is going to chew him out again if he doesn't get home soon. Kimura asks him why. Akun tells him that he's the one in charge of making dinner. That's why. Hearing this makes Kimura think that Akun is poor and domestic. As the MC is drying his jacket, Kimura looks at him and thinks that he has every speck of a rom-com MC under his belt. Akun is without question the leading man of this world. He thinks that this situation is bad. If Akun rushes home, because he's in charge of dinner, Kawashima will be out of luck. He needs to find some way to keep Akun here. As he's thinking this, he suddenly hears a meow behind him. Kimura looks at the sound and sees that it's a cat clawing his raincoat. Kimura pulls his raincoat to free himself. He starts fighting and struggling with the cat to get free. He suddenly notices something as he looks at Akun. He sees that Akun has a scared and terrified look on his face. Seeing this confuses Kimura. As Kimura holds the cat, he says, "You're pretty used to people, huh?" Akun gets up and starts going home as he says that he's heading out now with a trembly voice. Seeing this shocks Kimura. Akun looks like he's lost his mind as he puts his hand under the rain and says that the rain's letting up already. Kimura screams and tells the dumbass that it's pouring cats and dogs out there. Kimura stops him and tells him that he's going to catch a cold if he goes now. He thinks that this situation is really bad. If Akun catches a cold, Ayame will take care of him when he's sick, and one thing leads to another and they will fall for each other. Kimura thinks that Kawashima will be here soon. He can't let that happen. He grabs Akun and tells him to stay here and take shelter from the rain. Seeing Kimura like this scares Akun. Kimura sees that Akun is sweating as he looks at the cat. Seeing this makes him realize something. Kimura picks up the cat and takes it near Akun. Seeing the cat so close to him makes Akun scream in fear. Akun clutches his bag and jacket as he falls on his knees. Kimura takes the cat and puts it under a dome, plaything in the park, and comes back to Akun and tells him that he moved it over there. Akun has tears in his eyes as he screams and asks, "You knew that I'm bad with cats?" Kimura tells him that much is obvious. Akun starts crying and begs Kimura to please not tell Ayame about his fear of cats. Kimura gets surprised from this reaction and says, "Like I would ever tell her." Kimura gets cautious and thinks that he can easily picture a scene where Ayame teases Akun by pushing his weakness of cats and getting all flirty with each other. We see Akun looking at Kimura with a curious look in his eyes. Kimura looks at this and asks him, "What's with your look?" Akun replies and says, "No, it's just, you're oddly blunt about it. I mean, cats are pretty cute, right? But whenever I said I was scared of cats, people always teased me." He feels down as he says that he gets that it's weird. He gets that in his head, but it's still a trauma for him. Suddenly, Kimura says, "Not really." Hearing this surprises him. Kimura continues and tells him that there's nothing strange about that. If there are people who hate dogs, then there are probably people who hate cats too. No one's going to make fun of him for something like that. Hearing this surprises Aikun. Kimura rejoices and thinks that with this, the greatest crisis has passed. Suddenly, Aikun tells him that he kinda gets why Kawashima trusts him so much. Hearing this confuses Kimura. Suddenly, we see Kawashima calling out to Aikun as she stands there in the rain with her umbrella. Kawashima stiffly greets him. Seeing this stiff reaction makes Kimura think, what an overactor. Kawashima shyly tells Akun that if he wants, she has 2 umbrellas here. Akun asks her if she's sure about this. She blushes and tells him, yes. Seeing this interaction leaves Kimura dumbfounded. Kawashima whispers to Kimura and thanks him for telling her about Akun being here. Suddenly, Kimura gets angry and screams at her as he asks, "Why did you bring 2?" Kawashima innocently tells him that it's because she wanted to lend him one too, and proudly says that it's a folding umbrella. Kimura tells her that he doesn't need that kind of kindness, and he's on a bike anyway. Kimura sighs and tells her that she had a chance to share an umbrella. Hearing this shocks her. As Kimura is wearing his raincoat, he feels the rain on his back. He takes a look at it, and sees that there are deep cuts on it because of the cat from before. Akun moves his umbrella towards Kimura and tells him that a cat's claws are practically weapons, deadly ones, at that. Kawashima also moves her umbrella towards Kimura as she says, "Huh? There was a cat?" We see that they both were trying to get Kimura to come under their umbrella. Kimura tells them that he's going to get wet anyway, so he doesn't need that. As Kimura says this, he cycles away. They both look at him, cycling in the rain, and look worried. Akun looks at him and says, "Back when it was me, even though he was telling me I would catch a cold." Akun says that Kimura is only worried about other people. Kawashima looks happy, as she says that's just the kind of person Kimura is. Kimura looks back and sees Kawashima and Akun talking, and smiles. Suddenly, Akun calls Kawashima and asks her, what does she and Kimura always talk about? Hearing this surprises her. She starts blushing and getting embarrassed as she remembers that all they talk about is about Akun. Kawashima looks scared as she speaks. She struggles to tell the truth. She tells him that Kimura just gives her advice. Akun asks her what kind of advice. Hearing this makes her more embarrassed. With a blushed face, she tells him, "Advice about you." Hearing this shocks Akun. She remembers everything the MC said and how he wants to see a losing heroine like her actually win. She musters her courage and screams, "I like you." But when she does this, she omits the pronoun and causes a misunderstanding. Akun remembers Kimura helping today and gets into the misunderstanding that Kimura likes him and gets shocked. He blushes and says, "Kimura likes me?" Kawashima tells him that's not what she meant, but Akun tells her that he won't say a word about it in front of Kimura. Akun suddenly hesitates and tells her that he already has someone he likes. Hearing this leaves Kawashima speechless. Chapter 4. We continue as we see Kawashima looking all gloomy as she's trying to clean. Kimura looks at her and gets worried. He sees that she's out of it and tells her that tomorrow is a day off. So why doesn't she try asking Akun to hang out? Hearing this confuses her. She starts getting scared as she realizes that Kimura is asking her to ask Akun on a date. She grips the broom tightly and musters her courage, and tells Kimura that they should practice first. Hearing this shocks him. On the day of the date, we see Kawashima waiting for Kimura as she's all dressed up. Kimura greets her and asks her, isn't she a bit too early, and that they still have 15 minutes before the meeting time. Kawashima looks dead as she tells him that she was so anxious that she couldn't sleep. Hearing this shocks him as he tells her that this is just practice though. He looks at her with surprise and tells her that she managed to say it herself at the park. Suddenly, she gets gloomy. Seeing this worries him as he wonders why she's dragging down the atmosphere. He tells her that she went through the trouble of wearing such a cute outfit. It would be a waste if she stays gloomy like this. Hearing this makes her jolt. She speaks and asks, "Cute?" He replies and says, "Yep, cute. Don't you think A-kun would also find it cute?" She starts blushing and smiling as she says, "I hope so." Seeing this makes Kimura smile. She tells him that she doesn't really know what she's supposed to do on a date. He tells her that for a first date, the best recommendation is a movie. Places like amusement parks are too heavy for a first outing. Keeping the conversation going during long waits is difficult, and there are too many choices of what to do. When there are too many options, people get tired just from deciding. Watching a movie and then eating together and talking about it is the safest bet. As they make their way to get the tickets, the lady at the counter asks them if they're a couple. Hearing this makes her blush. The lady tells them that they're offering a couple's discount right now. She shows the offers which say 10% off if they link arms, 30% off if they hold hands, 50% off if they hug, and it's completely free if they kiss. Seeing this shocks both of them. Kimura thinks that they've been caught up in a rom-com storm. Kawashima's head overheats as she thinks about kissing. Kimura tells her to calm down. He goes to the counter and tells the lady that they'll take the tickets at the regular price. As he's doing this, Kawashima sees him and tells him to hold on. Hearing this surprises him. Kawashima tugs on his bag and tells him that this is practice after all. As he turns around and sees her blushing face, he hears her telling him that she won't be able to do it for real if she doesn't get it right now. Kawashima puckers her lips and goes in for a kiss. This shocks Kimura. He repeatedly tells her to hold on as he backs up. She stands on her tippy toes and goes in for the kiss with her eyes closed. Kimura starts sweating and suddenly blocks her kiss with his arm. He tells her that kissing would definitely make for some solid footage. But that is the peak. In other words, once she kisses, the excitement drops off like an upside-down V. A kiss before she is even dating is a straight path to a losing route. Hearing this makes her scared as she says, "Another loss?" He tells her that she's been acting weird since yesterday. Seeing that he caught her makes her freeze up. He asks her if something happened. She gets gloomy as she answers him. She slowly tells him that A-kun said that he already has someone he likes. Hearing this shocks Kimura. He screams and asks, "You confessed?" He gets concerned for Kawashima and tells her that they should sit down and talk. Now we see them at a family restaurant. Kawashima tells him that she told A-kun that she liked him, but he misunderstood. And then, in the flow of things, he said that he already has someone else he liked. But once he said it, she got afraid of hearing his answer. She just wanted some confidence. Hearing this makes Kimura worry about her. She continues and tells him that something that would let her move forward. We see that she's in tears and says that she never thought it would end up being this scary. As she cries, her tears fall into the drink they ordered. They both sit there in silence for a bit. Kimura suddenly talks to her with excitement and tells her that she actually made it all the way to confession. He tells her that she's really amazing, as that must have taken her a lot of courage. He cheers for her as he tells her that's a big step forward. Seeing this excitement and positive energy from him lightens up Kawashima. Kimura gets serious and tells her that the person A-kun likes, there's a chance that it could be her. Because it's totally possible he just got embarrassed and couldn't admit it right to her face. However, saying she's too scared to take that step is practically walking straight to the losing phase. He tells her to not waste this chance. Hearing this shocks her. She cheers up and tells him that she hasn't lost yet, with a determined look on her face. Suddenly, she realizes something. Kimura smiles and says, "That's right." He tells her that she hasn't lost yet. Hearing this brings back hope into her eyes. Kimura continues and tells her that this is why she needs to move forward. Hearing this encourages her even more. Kimura continues and asks her, "Isn't this a lot easier than going for a kiss?" Hearing this makes her remember that she was about to kiss him a few minutes ago and gets embarrassed. As she's blushing and panicking, she apologizes to him and tells him that she panicked back there. He tells her to not worry as he understands her. He tells her to push herself that boldly when it comes to A-kun as well. Hearing this makes her blush as she fidgets with the drink in her hand. Kimura starts thinking about the person A-kun likes and asks if he should just try asking A-kun directly. Kawashima sips at her drink as she blushes. As she finishes the drink, she tells Kimura that just like he said, she can't just stop here now, can she? She brightly smiles and thanks Kimura. Seeing her smile makes him smile. Kimura gets up as he tells her that if she had a change of heart, then he's glad. As they walk out of the cafe, she says that she'll buy a ticket in advance and try inviting him to a movie after break. She says that they'll share a popcorn in the cinema and maybe their hands will touch. As she thinks about this, her head overheats. Kimura looks at her as he's confused and says, "That's when you go all in on the hand-holding, okay?" She continues and says that maybe she can even ask who he likes when the chance comes up. As they are walking, someone suddenly notices them. We see that it's A-kun. Seeing him there shocks Kawashima. Kimura looks at him and thinks that the chance has arrived. Chapter 5. We continue as we see Kawashima looking nervous as she tells A-kun, "What a coincidence." A-kun tells them that Ayami asked him to run some errands for her. Hearing this makes Kimura think, too many coincidences. He wonders if A-kun is a heroine magnet or something. He wonders if Kawashima will be okay. This is way too sudden, no matter how they look at it. She's not mentally prepared for this. Suddenly, Kawashima asks A-kun if he's free after this, and how about they grab some tea. Seeing this bold move shocks Kimura. He looks at her and thinks that she invited him like some kind of pickup artist. A-kun agrees to her. Kimura looks at her locking in and gets shocked. She suddenly turns around as she says, "Of course! You're coming as well, Kimura-kun?" She hits a JoJo pose as she says this. Kimura looks at her and wonders what in the world is this move she's hitting right now. Kimura goes closer to her and whispers that he's not needed here. Suddenly, he realizes something. He thinks that being just the two of them from the start is way too heavy. Better to start as if everyone's just hanging out, and before they know it, it turns into a date. So, that's the sweetest conclusion of all. Kimura gets surprised as he thinks that she has grown a lot to be able to think this far ahead. As he sees her shaking and being nervous, he thinks that her growth is overwhelming. We see A-kun awkwardly smile and blush as he tells them that this sounds great, as he was just starting to get hungry anyway. Hearing this makes Kimura think that what Kawashima said has left a great impression as well. As they walk, they come across a donut stand. Seeing this makes Kimura think that there's the conveniently perfect donut shop. The staff at the shop announce that they're doing a couple discount right now. People get 2 donuts for free if they hold hands. Seeing this shocks Kimura more as he thinks that the conveniently perfect donut shop has a conveniently perfect couples discount. Kimura gets serious as he thinks about how Kawashima said that she would share popcorn and maybe their hands might touch. As Kimura recalls this, he thinks if this is her chance, she was just saying all that stuff earlier, but can she really manage to hold hands? Even if she says her resolve is complete, isn't this too hard for her? As he's thinking this, we suddenly see Kawashima flip her hair as she has a confident look on her face. She softly says, "The couple's discount, huh?" She reaches her hand to A-kun and hits another JoJo pose as she says, "If it's free, I don't mind holding hands or whatever." Seeing this makes A-kun blush. Kimura gets shocked as she's actually doing it, and on top of that, she's putting the rom-com theory he told her into practice, the tsundere theory. Kimura gets pumped up as he thinks that she's on a whole different level today. She has gone from the one being teased to the one doing the teasing. She has A-kun in the palm of her hands. A-kun agrees and says that he understands now. As he says this, A-kun looks serious and grabs Kimura's hand. Seeing this confuses Kimura. A-kun looks sorry as he tells Kimura that his hands are sweaty, and he's sorry about that. Hearing this makes Kimura think that A-kun wasted such a classic hand-holding line on him. As they approach the donut stand, Kimura looks baffled as he thinks, what the hell is he doing? Does he not see it says, couple? Kimura understands that A-kun is trying to hide his embarrassment. But this is such a sloppy way to do it. Shouldn't A-kun be holding hands with the girl with this flow? Suddenly Kimura realizes something. He realizes that A-kun still hasn't noticed, after all these approaches. Kimura thinks that no attacks are effective against this dense MC. As he's thinking this, we suddenly see Kawashima go for A-kun's hand. She grabs his hand as she blushes. She tries to look nonchalant as she says, "Maybe they can get 3 donuts if the 3 of them hold hands." Seeing this makes A-kun blush as his heart beats faster. Kimura is shocked by this play done by Kawashima. His inner self cries tears of joy as he applauds her and cheers for her. He is so proud of her that he'll start calling her Kawashima-san instead of just Kawashima from today. Now we see them sitting and eating the donuts. A-kun takes a bite of his and tells them that the donut is really good. Hearing this makes Kawashima ask him what kind of flavor it is. A-kun offers her to just have a bite of it. Hearing this makes her blush and almost overheat. Kimura looks at this and thinks that A-kun just launched an unconscious counterattack. He wonders if A-kun is naturally dense or doing it on purpose. Either way, it's way too unfair. As Kawashima fidgets and looks flushed, she tells A-kun that it'll turn into an indirect kiss. After hearing this, A-kun realizes what he was doing and starts sweating. He apologizes to her and tells her that he does this with his little sister, so it's become a habit. A-kun covers his face as he blushes and tells her that he didn't mean it like that. Seeing this shocks Kimura as he can't believe that she turned the tables on him. She used her own shyness as part of her approach as well. That's straight up a main heroine move. He cries more tears of joy as he thinks such character growth will get her on a rom-com cover page right this instant. We see A-kun blush harder as he jolts and says that he's feeling a bit feverish today. Seeing this makes Kimura think that Kawashima's move was super effective. Hearing A-kun say that he has a fever makes her immediately stand up. She goes close to him and checks his forehead for temperature. Seeing this makes A-kun malfunction. A-kun runs away as he tells them that he would feel bad if he gave the fever to her and heads home. As he runs away, they see A-kun bump into everything near him. Seeing this shocks Kimura. He thinks that A-kun's stamina hit 0. That's an overkill. Kawashima-san is no longer a losing heroine. She's the reborn, winning heroine. Kimura cries tears and claps as he says that was some incredible development and calls her Kawashima-san. Hearing this shocks her as he's adding honorifics now. Kawashima looks at Kimura and smiles as she tells him that since he was the one who gave her a push forward, she has decided. No matter who A-kun ends up liking, from now on, she's going to go all out to make him turn her way. So Kimura should just watch her from here. Kimura has the expression of a proud parent as he hears this. He tells Kawashima to tell this to A-kun instead of him. At Kawashima's place, we see her taking a bath as she smiles and thinks that today was really fun. But she ended up troubling Kimura a lot again. She recalls Kimura looking shocked as he blushed and thinks that he made a face she's never seen before when she leaned in for that kiss. She thinks that Kimura's face was so funny when she held hands with A-kun, and she got to hang out with A-kun as well. As she says this, she suddenly realizes something. She starts blushing and goes blank. Her heart starts beating faster and faster as she thinks about Kimura. She asks herself what should she do. She remembers everything Kimura told her and how her day was with him. She sounds confused as she says that she got to hang out with A-kun as well, so how come all she can think about is Kimura-kun? And this is how this chapter ends. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you,